Hello everyone, and welcome to Blue Tengu's live game development show, where we show everything that goes into making a game from concept to completion. If you've ever wanted to make a game, we hope this will help lower the barrier to entry, maybe give you the nudge you needed to try it yourself. Even if you don't want to make a game, we hope you'll find some entertainment value in what we're doing here. All of the information about where you can find us is in the Twitch info down below, or in our YouTube profile for those of you catching us later. But just in case, we're at www.bluetengu.com. Tengu on Twitter, facebook.com Blue Tengu Studio, youtube.com Blue Tengu Studio for those of you watching the live stream with me now, and Twitch TV Blue Tengu for those of you catching this on YouTube who might want to drop by the live show. Even if you've missed an episode, you can always catch them over at YouTube, but you shouldn't have any trouble following along even if you haven't seen them. For those of you who haven't seen the show on Twitch or YouTube before, my name's Eric. I'm a game designer living over here in Japan who's trying to show you everything that goes into making a game for about 2 hours a week. Including all the ums and ahs and awkward debugging moments, and I promise to have lots of those. The reason I'm showing it all as opposed to making the game first and scripting out a rehearsed tutorial is because I do want to lower that barrier people feel to making a game, and I hope inspire you to go out and try it yourself. Thank you to everyone who dropped by last week, and to all of those who watched the video on YouTube. Thank you for the people who joined the chat too. Should give a shout out to Sirius and Panda Bits and Torpid Sloth. Y'all all gave me some good suggestions as I went along. I may not be able to answer your questions right away if you do have them in the chat, because I am working, but I'll try to get to them. And if I can't, just send me a private message here or leave a comment on our site or YouTube video. You can also send an email to eric at bluetengu.com, and I'll try to answer that. If any of you are out there making something and you don't mind showing it off, definitely send a link to your stuff. I'd love to see it. You can also, if you're watching the live stream now, you can post it over in the Twitch chat. I allow links since no one's trying to spam my channel or anything like that. Until someone starts doing that, I'm just going to allow links, so go ahead and post it if you want to. But at this time every week for 2 hours I come on to Twitch TV to work on the game Project Spaghetti, which is a top-down 2D cowboy shooter where the bullets fired bounce around the screen with a pinball mechanic. Last week I started on the game's mouse support by adding icons, some click effects, drag effects, things like that, and right-click based mouse movement. Mostly got that working by the end of the last episode. Did do a few things in the meantime to brush up the mouse implementation, so I'm going to show you exactly what tasks I did. I did post about it on bluetengu.com as well if you're interested in the specifics. But I think right now I'm ready to jump into mouse-based shooting and dodging, which is the other mouse button. Shooting should be relatively easy, dodging might not be. We'll see what happens. Let me see here. I should jump to my desktop now. By the way, there is quite a bit of lag going on for my computer watching Twitch. I think the chat comes pretty quick, but the video goes a little slow, so hopefully I can respond to you guys quickly. I hope it doesn't affect the chat. So let me jump over to Trello here. Make sure I get the browser so that you guys can see it. Don't want to have anything off screen while I'm trying to explain it. Let's see. Before I even jump into it, Sirius, hey, welcome. I'm sorry to hear you're sick. I guess before Panda Bits was sick and now you're sick. I guess it is that season. I'm feeling a little bit off myself, so I'm not sure if I'm catching something. It could just be allergies in Japan because they have these cedar trees all over the place and everyone gets mad allergies with them, so I'm hoping it's allergies. But I may be joining you in the sick state soon. Did you get the rest of your inventory items finished? Because you mentioned that last week in the email. Hope you got those finished. Hope you're on track. Last week, the episode 31 was all about putting in the mouse stuff. This week, well, before I get into this week, I guess I should describe what I did during overtime. Some of the things I did was, before when I was having the mouse drag across the screen, there were two options. I could either have it, just show a mouse click effect when the user clicked on something, but now it's got a drag trail. I should probably just show this stuff in game. It'd be better, right? So I'm going to jump right into Game Maker and show you what I did, as it'll be easier to see than to explain. So Game Maker is what I use to make the game. Works great for 2D games. You can always use Unity or Unreal for 2D games as well. Like Unreal, I've been looking up recently because I've been using it on another project. There's like the paper stuff, which is good for 2D. But I'm pretty comfortable with Game Maker at this point after almost a year of doing this. Gotta make sure to get this window small too. So I do have an old monitor. It's not 16 by 9, but I'm broadcasting in 16 by 9, so I just have to be careful not to use the bottom of the screen. Let's see. Easiest way to show, so I guess to jump right into the game. Okay, I should probably lower that resolution too. Well, no, that kind of works. Okay, well, I guess this is one task that you'll notice. I did have the mouse working for the menus, so now you can click through the menus, get started, all that stuff. And unfortunately, my controller is acting up because old Xbox controller, the stick gets kind of jammed in a direction and it's plugged in, so that takes priority over the other controllers and screws things up. So I just have to make sure that stick's not tilted. But let's see. First thing is mouse clicking. As you can see, the difference between this week and last week is before I had the click thing, which is the same, but when I was dragging, the same giant click effect was following the character, making it kind of hard to see. Now it's a little easier. And so that's that click effect. One other thing you'll notice in the upper left corner that I'll show later is the bullets. I used to have just like 6 bullets just out there, and they just kind of decrease as you went along. Now, actually, I have to get rid of the mouse here. If you fire, it actually looks like the bullet chamber is going down. And if I can reload at some point, there should be a bullet drop appearing here soon. Hopefully, because I am out of bullets. All those things are going to explode. Okay, here we go. We got a bullet pickup, and it just fills in. So it's just a different way of showing the bullets, so I did add that. Mouse stuff works on pause as well. So that is that. I think that's most of what I added in the meantime. So mouse changed the move effect. Also, yeah, the holding down the right mouse button, like on spaces the player couldn't go, that was causing a bit of a problem where the player would walk back and forth. I did fix that by dropping, where it drops that mouse, destination icon. Also, to make sure that the player doesn't stop short of where they're going if it's just open space, I have 2 versions. If it's over an obstacle, it creates kind of a wide circle, so if the player runs into that, they stop there. If it's just over blank, empty ground that the player can walk on, it's just a point, so that the player can go right to where they want to go to. Because you do kind of need precise controls with the mouse to get to exactly where you're going. Let's see, the mouse pointer fixed the center. I just adjusted the sprite so that the exact center of the mouse is right in the middle of that crosshair. The rest is like effects and things like that. I did, because whatever I did with the mouse was overriding everything else when it came to player direction, I did separate out the player direction so that if you're using the keyboard, it works one way, controller works the other way, mouse works the other way. So mouse direction actually, as you could probably see when I was playing it, the player actually points towards where the mouse pointer is now. So that's in there. So that'll actually make implementing shooting today a lot easier than I thought it would be, I hope. And all the menu selection stuff in that bullet UI chamber. So that's the bulk of what I did in the meantime. But today we're going to get into, well, the episode Mousetrapped. You'll see why it's called Mousetrapped when I do the intermission. But right-click to fire in the current direction. That should be real quick, I hope. And then mouse-based dodging. This should also be pretty quick, but the only thing that might not be quick is that in the game right now, fire it up again. In the game right now, if you do dodge, using, say, the keyboard, for example, you can slide if you're still holding a direction while you dodge. If you just dodge in place, it's that. That would be really easy to implement on the mouse. But what's going to be a little trickier is making sure to check for this slide input. But, I do have it set up on the controller, so it shouldn't be too bad. Should just be a lot of copying that stuff. And one thing about those menus that I'm doing, I should let you know, I do have it on that post on the site. Let me jump over to that. Do have it written in the post on the site, but right now I'm doing menus kind of manually. Adding mouse support to Project Spaghetti's menus. Okay, yeah, so it's just in here, but what it is now is I'm actually taking, specific coordinates and saying if the mouse is in here and you click now, then do this. It's kind of a hacked way to do it. I don't really like doing it that way because that means I have to rely on those menu items being where they are. And if I decided to move things around or change the font size or something like that, it's all going to screw up. So one thing I think I will do with the menus in the future is try to get it so that I just have objects. So like you have a room here, which is the menu room, and then just put down, these menu item objects. There's not going to be like a border or anything that you can see, but the object will be, this kind of square thing, and if you click on it, it reacts properly. I think that's the better way to do it than what I'm doing now. At least it'll be easier to make changes. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Let me catch up to the chat. Sears654 didn't get those inventory items finished. I mean, you are sick, so I'm sure that doesn't help. But you're going to work on them this weekend and hopefully get something farther. I hope so. When your inventory is done, I'll be interested to hear about it, because I like hearing about other people's projects. So if any of you other guys out there in the chat are working on something, go ahead and throw it in the chat feed. I do like to see this stuff. If you've got pictures or whatever, or just ideas, feel free to throw it over there. And Sears654 also says, I like the additions. Thank you very much. It did take quite a bit of time to get these things done. I forgot to write an overtime time in here, but I guess I should. I would say that was about like 10 hours of overtime. Well, no, not that much. 8 hours maybe. It was a lot of work. It was stuff that wouldn't have been very interesting for you guys to see, I'm sure, because it was just, moving around the screen, thinking, all right, clicking here, it doesn't quite fit, so I should, change these numbers this much, and, a lot of that stuff. And I don't ever want to do that again, so that's another reason to do like the object-based stuff. So you can click on objects instead of finding coordinates and all that stuff. So let's get right into left click. I should say left click. The default anyway, because right click is move. So left click to fire in the current direction and move that over to progress. So that's what we're going to work on now. That should be real quick, I hope, because I've already got the direction stuff moving. So to show what that is, jump in here again. So right now I can move with a right click, and I can also drag around to move, which is cool. Player also faces the right direction, but I want to also left click to fire a bullet in that direction. So let's see. It's just going to fire in the direction the player's facing, so it shouldn't be too difficult to do. Just have to kind of wrap my head around the firing code because it's been a while. Let's see, input controller. I think all of that's in here. I really need to get a 16:9 monitor so I can use the whole screen space. It feels kind of crowded up here. Plus the fact that it's a square monitor and it's like a really small monitor. It's like a 15-inch or something. Bought this monitor a long time ago. The computer's new, but the monitor was from my old computer, which I'd used for like 7 years before buying the new one. So this monitor is like 9 years old, but it's still ticking. So we've got shoot with the stick. So it's going to be something like this. Shooting with the stick is probably the closest thing to shooting with the mouse. And I guess the video is kind of chugging over here, so I hope you guys are okay. I hope it's not lagging too much for you guys. So let's see, fire the bullet with the stick, shoot with the stick. So there's two things that go into shooting. One is charging the bullet, because if you hold down, like say the button or the fire key on the keyboard, it starts to charge the bullet, and then when you let go it fires. So I need to do something like that for the mouse. Hold down the left mouse button, so in GameMaker that's mouse button pressed, so only registers that first press, starts the charge until it gets that released event. So that's going to be very similar to this stuff, I would imagine. Let's just start copying it. Actually, before I do any of that, I should probably back up my project. Yes, that's fine. Hopefully I didn't make any changes that screw it up. I think I just expanded some menus. This is old school backup, just backing up the folder. I probably should use source control, but last time I tried to get source control working with GameMaker, it just died on me, so it kind of screwed up the project too, and I had to undo all that, so I wasn't a fan of that. Let's see, this is before episode, and this is episode 32, so I'll just do that. As long as I back it up once an episode, I will only lose like 2 hours worth of work anyway, which is probably about what I would lose if I was using source control, because I'd check all the files out, do the show, and then check them all in, so same thing, I suppose. Old school source control. Okay, let's get back into this. So what I should do is copy this out to the mouse stuff. Shoot. Fire with twin stick keys. I don't need the twin stick shooting stuff, do I? Probably not. Okay. Where am I? Fire bullet with the stick, shoot with the stick. Okay, let's do one thing at a time. Let's get the charging working first. And I should probably leave that in here, even though the mouse stuff is out here. Mouse click test. Yeah, let's see. Should I put mouse stuff in here? I guess I should probably keep all the mouse stuff together. Probably a good idea. I should probably even separate out controls and keyboard, but let's just keep it in here, because this is where I would do the check. Okay, let's see. Shoot with a stick. If that... Well, alright, let's just unindent it the easy way. And I'll move this back up there when I'm done with it. But for now, if check pressed, mouse shoot. Okay, this is exactly what I need. I'll combine them later. I just want to keep the logic simple so I can look at it. Okay, so if you've pressed the shoot button, and mouse shoot is true, shoot direction, let's see, that I need to get from here. Because if you're using the mouse, it changes the direction. And I just need to figure out where it's doing that. Dodge, fire the bullet, shoot with keys. Maybe doing that somewhere at the bottom, actually. Well, should be doing it at the bottom. I think the bottom stuff is updating the sprite. Okay, so if they're not heard, update the direction, check the dodge roll. Mouse controller. Yeah, you would think it would be in here, actually. Well, it's not too big a deal. Because I can use this point direction. So, point direction x1, 0, 0, 0, 0, x, gamepad access value, x, y. So this should be the player's x and y, up to mouse x, mouse y. And these are special GameMaker variables that keep track of where the mouse is on the screen. And I have to make sure that the player's not dodging, dead, or hurt before they can actually start shooting, and make sure they're not already charging. Set the charge time so that it keeps looping through and charging up level by level. And when I'm done, I get to here. Okay, now I need the release code. Okay, just wanted to make sure I wasn't doing anything with mouse X in here. Okay, so actually shoot now. Fire the bullet. That's the one I need. Okay, so fire the bullet. This is quite complicated because of the charging stuff. So it is long, but it's not that difficult to follow. Yeah, they do need to unindent it. And let me see the chat. Cirrus mentions, yes, I do need a new monitor. Yes, I do need a new monitor. At some point, I do need to buy a new one. Because all this stuff, I'm sure for you guys, it gets annoying when this stuff kind of goes off screen like that. And decent scrimp said, but no lag on this end. It's coming through quite decently. Oh, that's decent. Glad to hear it. Decent scrimp. Love that name. That's awesome. I wonder if somebody dropped by the show, because I know what scrimp. I know what a scrimp is. So let's see. Do the same thing I do with the gamepad, except mouse check. But welcome to the show, decent scrimp. That name's awesome. Okay, so release the mouse shoot button. And the reason I do this instead of saying left button is just because the player could want to change left and right mouse button. You know, maybe they don't like, you know, RTS style controls where you click with the right and shoot and do actions with the left. It's up to the player. Want to make as many things possible up to the player. I guess this one's real simple. If release mouse shoot. Okay, so if they're not already shooting, if they've got plenty of bullets, if they're not dodging dead or hurt, then shoot. And the fire shot PL direction. I don't know, am I actually updating player direction in the right way already? Might already be. But no, let's not take a chance. Let's go with shoot direction. It might be okay to do just player direction, but just in case. Just in case. We'll see. And this is all that charging stuff, so this is exactly the same. Creating effects, that's exactly the same. Twin shooting, button shooting. I guess I should turn mouse shooting off too. Don't need to turn twin shooting off because I'm not using that. Well, actually, on the off chance someone is using a mouse and a controller at the same time, you know what? Let's turn this all off. Better to be safe than sorry. So let's add this mouse shooting false to the other stuff too. Okay, if twin shooting's false, let's add the mouse shooting false to this stuff too. Just in case. You know, because if they start charging with a button and then fire with the mouse, then they're still charging while they've already fired and stuff, and that'd be cheating, so I don't want to allow that. So wherever I'm setting button shooting to false, I should probably set mouse shooting to false as well. And Decent Scrimp says, thank you, you're very knowledgeable. Awesome. That name is so awesome. I hope you have plans to make that an email address. Let's see, PL direction. Okay. That may be enough to get me started. I do need to create that mouse shooting variable, because otherwise it'll crash on me. So wherever I'm doing button shooting, I should add mouse shooting. Set it to false. Okay. So just a default. Is the player using a command key to shoot? Yeah, okay. Let's see what happens. Let's see exactly what happens. That's the easiest way to find out whether I'm doing it right or not. Move this up. Okay, there we go. Clear check Y. I know I ran into this when I did the controller too, so... Clear check X, clear check Y. Yeah, I know I ran into this when I did the controller as well, and I had to do something. I'm trying to remember what it was. Fire shot, shoot direction. So it was in fire shot, so that's the script I'm using to actually fire the bullet, just so I don't have to write this whole thing every time. Not direction. Okay. That's because I was using the wrong script. Okay, I needed to use fire shot direction. So I needed to actually use the twin stick stuff, because that's more similar to the way the mouse works, because I could be moving in this direction while firing off in this direction, theoretically, so I should have copied that stuff over. That's why that wasn't working, so let's jump down here. And the only thing I need to change is the actual shoot, wherever it is. SC fire shot direction. That's the only change I should need to make. And afterwards I can combine this and make it more efficient, but for now I'm just keeping it as a separate if. So it does the check twice. It checks if the mouse button's being pressed twice. That's okay. Alright, here we go. Awesome. See, I'm controlling this like an FPS. Give the user choices. Just out of habit. Out of habit, I just reached down to the keyboard to control my direction while doing shooting with this. You can tell I've been raised on FPSs. Because that's my natural habit. But on the mouse, if you wanted to do everything with the mouse, you could just move like this, shoot like that. You know, I think for me, because I am used to FPSs, I would rather probably use, you know, the left hand to control the movement and the right hand to control like direction and firing. But, you know, if someone's used to controlling everything with the mouse, or in the future, you know, if we do expand this out to like a touch device, like a, you know, an iPhone or an Android device, making sure everything's possible with just interacting with the screen is going to be necessary anyway, so let's see if I can actually win this level. Well, alright, by default. So now, Ghosts and Goblins styles, I've lost my clothing, got one hit before I die, let's piss the scorpion off, and there we go. Not bad, not bad. Okay, shooting, you know, except for that one mistake I made with the script naming, that worked out pretty nicely. I guess I should clean up the script, maybe? No, I'll save that for later. But left click to fire in the direction, that is done. That wasn't too bad at all. That was not painful. Mouse-based dodging, we'll see. That could be a little more painful, because I have to keep track of where the mouse is moving. But it should be pretty close to dodging on the controller, so I should probably copy that stuff over. Maybe in the future I could compact all this stuff and just, you know, make it work for multiple devices instead of having blocks of it. That way if I make a change in one place, I don't have to worry about making a change in other places, because that could create bugs. So let's see, dodge. Is that all I'm doing for dodge? We'll see. We'll see. It'd be nice if it was that short and simple. So the dodge works a little differently on the mouse than the controller, because on the controller you have, you know, a ton of buttons. So you can assign one to dodge, you can assign one to shoot. With the mouse you only have, well, at least on my mouse, you only have two really usable buttons, left and right. So for dodge, what I'm planning on doing, I should probably show this before I start jumping into the code, is You'll notice like the mouse cursor, it's black right now, but if I hover over the player, it turns blue. What I'm planning on doing is if you left click while it's over the player, rather than shoot, that triggers the dodge. Even the mouse effect is green instead of the usual like red to indicate that. So if I'm in this state, that means dodge, not shoot. Because I would figure that most players wouldn't want to click on the cowboy to shoot, because that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Unless they want to commit suicide, I suppose. So I'm just going to use that to my advantage and use that as the dodge function. So for example, up here, mouse shoot, if the mouse is over the player. So inside of mouse shoot, there's this. And let's see, I guess I should do that down at the bottom too. So everything's going to be in that shoot if. So in here, this is where things are going to get kind of tricky. Shoot with a button, mouse click, shoot with a click. I should probably change that first. So the first thing is I don't want to shoot if the mouse is over the player. So let's fix that at least. So only if that's an else. Do that. Come on down here. Indent this stuff so I don't make bracket mistakes like I always make. I think Cirrus 654 has been around long enough to see that I always make bracket mistakes and parentheses mistakes. So that should help resolve that. This is going to be the dodge stuff in here, but let's just test it to make sure that it's working. The only thing I made a change to is if the mouse is over the player when they click the shoot button, it shouldn't do anything if everything worked out. Testing it one step at a time is a good idea. Unfortunately, oh, okay, I know why. Needed to do it in another place too. See, good thing I tested it. Let's jump in here, because I need to do it down for this released as well. Check. This is actually supposed to be mouse check released. Oh, okay. Whoops. I guess I should comment this out. It's not doing anything, but it kind of scares me that I've got this copied and pasted code down here just sitting here. I'm surprised it actually worked. Let's see. So I do need to do this down here as well. Mouse is over the player. Otherwise, do this. Now, I guess one thing I'm going to have to be careful of is, because it's not a separate button, I need to worry about what if they start holding down the charge, bring the mouse pointer over the player, and then let go. Is that something different? Then I have to worry about on anything else. So let's see, what should I do for that? I guess only if mouse shoot is true should I ever go into here for firing the bullet. So only if they're charging the shot, or at least, you know, starting the shot, should it ever come into this, like, check for the release button to fire a bullet. That's one good start. That may be all I need, actually. So after doing all that indenting, I guess I get to unindent. Make my code look pretty. Okay. And Decent Scrimp says it's dinner time. Great channel, keep up the good work, and remember to always stay decent. I'll stay as decent as I possible. Goodbye, old Scrimp. Have a nice dinner. Thank you for dropping by the way. Made my day. Good old Decent Scrimp. Okay. So shoot with a click. Pressed. So now it should actually work, because only if they were not over the player when they started charging should it ever come into this release stuff. Let's just make sure that step works first. Okay, starts. Well, there we go, mouse shoot. Variable get mouse shoot. Oh, whoops. Mouse shoot, mouse fire. That was awkward. I always promise to have awkward moments. That is one of them. I think I just forgot what I called my variable. Mouse. Where is it? Global mouse shoot, that's fine. Mouse shoot is true. Yeah, it's not mouse button. Yeah, okay, that was silly, because I probably saw this button shooting and thought instead of mouse shoot, I'll just call it mouse button for some reason. That should be my only problem, just naming things wrong. I hope. There we go. So now if it's over the player and I click on the player, it doesn't do anything, which is what I want. If it's not over the player, he still shoots as usual, which is cool. So let's save that. Now it's time to actually get the dodge working. Jump into here. Let's see. So that's where I'm going to have to use all of this commented out stuff. Okay, so this should be all as usual. Where are the bullet? So let's think about how I do it on the joystick, I guess. If I press the button, it dodges. And after, okay, so if I press the button, it enters the dodge state. If I don't move after that, the dodge state just causes the character to shrink down and then pop back up. If I move after I'm in that dodge state, then the player slides. So actually, I should only have to worry about mouse button pressed. This is the only place I should have to do anything for dodge, at least in terms of making the character dodge. So let's move all this in here. So if it's over the player, okay, and let me re-explain all this stuff since it's been a while since going through the dodge stuff. So to make sure that the player can't just dodge all the time, I do have like a cooldown on that. So if you see it in the game, they shrink down, they pop up, but then you can't dodge for just, half a second or whatever, just to make sure that there's some consequence to dodging with the wrong timing. So that's what this is. It makes sure that the character is in a place where they can dodge. Make sure they're not hurt, because they're already dodging if they're hurt. And of course, if they're dead, they can't dodge, unless they're a zombie cowboy. Super shot, set that to false. This is just for the reload mechanic. This is that thing that fires off a red bullet if you time it right. So I just have to make sure that if they dodge, it disables that. And turn on dodge input, start the dodge stuff, play the sound effect, set them into the dodge state, reset the cooldown. Okay. And there's also this stuff down here which says if they are hurt and they're not dead, then you can wail on the dodge button to get up faster. So all that's the same. This may even work as is. We'll find out. Won't be able to slide the character yet, I don't think, but at the very least, should be able to get him to duck if I click on him. Let's find out. Brilliant. Okay. And I just wanted to make sure that the move didn't make them slide, which it isn't, which is good, because this is going to be a little bit different on the mouse than on keyboard and controller. Because on the keyboard, well, let's see. On the keyboard, if I duck and I'm still holding a direction I move, with the mouse, movement is done with right-clicking, and I don't want to have this awkward thing where you dodge and have to right-click somewhere really quick. What I would rather do is you click to dodge, and then you slide off in a direction to dodge in that direction. So that's different. That's completely different than anything I've done before. And because my gums are flapping at 1,000,000 miles a minute, I need to worry about my throat because it is winter. Got the heater on. Allergies are probably kicking in, so my throat's probably going to give out on me. Need to drink some more water. Always forget to do that. Whatever percent water the human body is, my percent at the end of the show is probably half that. So let's see. What do I need to do for the dodge? Well, let's think about this in good old paintbrush. So I've got my dodging character here. I'm holding down left mouse button over the character. Here's my cursor. I've clicked to make them dodge. So the next thing I guess I want to do is for that window where they can slide, I probably want to check whether the cursor is, well, the original cursor point, I should probably say, not the middle of the player. Well, let's draw this properly. So if this is where the player clicked on their dude, hopefully I get the right number of angles in here. 1, 2, 3. Let's see. Up, down, up, left, up, right. Okay, I need 8. I need to draw this even more properly. Let's do this the easy way. Like cutting a pizza. Alright. Well, good enough. Alright, so it's off. This should actually be different, but it'll get the point across, I think. If they clicked here and they slide up here, that probably means they want to go up and to the left, for example. If they slide here, it means they probably want to go up and to the right. Let's draw this properly, actually, because there's up and down. I don't want to screw you guys up too much. There we go. So if this is the origin, then I just have to check where the mouse is going and make them dodge in that direction. The thing that might be a little tricky is the thing about the mouse is it is kind of jerky at small distances. So if I just take the first mouse input that comes along, it could end up being something like this. What the player really wanted to do was go here, dodge up. But just because they had that little bit of a twitch over here, they end up dodging up and to the left. So what I probably need to do is make sure that the change in the mouse movement is greater than, this little circle here, this little radius. Just to make sure, well, let's do it to this picture. Something like this, so that it registers here. That radius is going to have to depend on what the player wants. May need some adjustment to make it feel right. Just want to make sure I don't capture that just initial twitch of the mouse, because then the player is going to be dodging in a direction they don't expect. So I do need to worry about that. But otherwise it should just be grabbing where the mouse is now, subtracting where it was, and then figuring out which direction that means. So let's see. I probably don't even need to worry about the button press. There's also another way to do it, which is check for where the mouse is when they release the button. But I don't know. As a player, I'm thinking, if I click, well, let's jump in here, show you what I'm thinking. Sorry about that. Voice is definitely giving out. So, serious, I might be joining you in the hospital if our sickness gets any worse. Let me turn off enemy shooting as well. Okay, so I've turned off enemy shooting, so that should be the last bullet that comes out. Just get rid of it. I've also made myself invincible. So what I'm suspecting is that when you dodge, I could click mouse, unclick mouse, and then that causes the roll. But, you know, just as a player, I'm thinking if I'm panicking and I'm dodging, I just want to, you know, hold the mouse button down, just move in whatever direction I'm sliding the mouse in. I don't want to have to worry about releasing the button to slide. That's just that one extra step that I think will confuse people. So I'm not going to listen for mouse released at all. I'm just going to check to see if this mouse pointer goes past a certain threshold and then slide in that direction. I think that's the best way to do this. So if they're dodging, I do need to do something different for the mouse. Dodge. Okay, so if they are in the peel dodge state, peel dodge input, what this variable is, created it a long time ago, but this is that window. If this is true, that means they can still slide. Peel dodge is just for graphics. This shows them scrunched up. And it also is what allows bullets to pass through them. So these aren't the same, so I should be using this one, because this is that dodge window that allows them to move, slide. So, dodge move, let's put that in here. So if this is true, then I should check the mouse. And if they started dodging with the keyboard and they want to switch to the mouse partway through, well, good on them. That's fine. I should allow that. So if this is true, what I want to check is the mouse stuff. What I need to do, I suppose, is keep track of where the mouse was when they clicked. That's one thing. Keep track of original mouse position. Although I just realized it now, but I didn't put a towel under my keyboard like I usually do, so it might be noisier than usual. This is a very noisy keyboard. I should probably get a soft touch or something because it's closer to the microphone, so it's probably extremely loud. When I'm editing videos, I always hear the keyboard and think, man, I need to get a new keyboard. But then by the time the next week rolls around, I forget about it. So let's see. PL dodge mouse X is equal to mouse X. PL dodge mouse Y is equal to mouse Y. And I guess I do need to define these outside. So before I forget to do that, let's do that. PL dodge mouse X. Well, alright, we don't need to set this. Well, alright, should we set it? I don't know. So if it comes in here and it's reading this, then it's going to always make them dodge in that direction. Yeah, that's not good. Okay. So I do need to make sure that that dodge stuff, that dodge movement stuff, only works if they've clicked in the mouse. Because otherwise, the mouse direction is going to influence the dodging for all the controls. So I don't want to do that. So what I want to do is PL dodge mouse, make a variable like that. So PL dodge mouse X, PL dodge mouse. Yes, that's fine. Whoops. Jumped out of the entire player. That's not good. Okay, so I should also set PL dodge mouse to true. And I need to make sure I set it to false wherever dodge input is being set to false, which I think is alarm number 5 based on that code. PL dodge mouse is equal to false, so reset that. And leave a comment so I remember what this is. Okay, jumping back in here. Okay, so I've got my old mouse X, my mouse Y for when it was clicked over the player. Got my PL dodge mouse to true. So let's come on down here and add that. PL dodge mouse is true. So if the player is able to move while they're dodging and they dodged with the mouse, then do this stuff. So we need to do 8 checks. Now let's see. 8 checks. 4 checks. 2 checks. I can do 2 checks. Can I? Let me think about this in Paintbrush. The game designer's tool here. So this is my original X and Y. I only want to dodge if the mouse gets out to here, these places. X could be, for example, 20 and 40. Yeah, so I can't use absolute value to cut down on things because it's not 0. So, alright, I guess I do need to do minimum 4 checks. Okay, so at minimum 4 checks. So, PL dodge mouse X. Dodge mouse X, just so I remember what that's called. So if mouse X is greater than that, plus, I guess I should make a constant for this because it's going to be repeated. And it might be something I want to adjust later. So come up to here to macros, add that. Mouse, dodge, distance. Not distance. Distance is going to make me think that's how far you can dodge with the mouse. Dodge minimum? Yeah, let's do dodge min. And let's say 2 pixels, 3 pixels. Let's try 3 pixels away. Might be too much. We'll see. Mouse dodge min. Okay. Dodge min. Okay, so what this is saying is if the new mouse position, XY, so the new horizontal position, is greater than the old position plus this little like 3 pixel buffer, then dodge in that direction. So I need to set this up for less than and then the 2 Y directions, the vertical directions. And since these two states should never be overlapping, I should be able to get away with this. Mouse dodge min. And do the same thing for Y. Okay, so if they've done any of that, that means it's okay to move. And what do I want to do? There's 2 options for me. I could only allow them to dodge in one of, I can't use the shift key since it's not Photoshop, habits. I could make them just dodge in one of 8 directions like I do with the keyboard. That's one way to do it. Or I could just make them dodge in whatever direction they want. I think I want to do it that way. It is the mouse after all. Otherwise it'll look like they're trying to dodge up this way and they're just kind of sliding this way. I don't know. It could also be awkward to let them dodge in different directions because that'll keep track of just that, where the mouse was when they kind of crossed that threshold. So it might be awkward to do it that way as well, but we'll try it that way since that's the easy way to do it. So if I do it that way, I don't need to worry about player direction because I can just calculate that. So I'll just make this one giant if. Yeah, see, there we go. There's my habit of deleting too many parentheses. Okay, and then I need one at the very end here. Let me just make sure I've got enough. Well, actually, I have too many now. I don't know, I just don't have enough. Okay. There we go. Got my parentheses straight. So, if the mouse has traveled far enough, did I spell traveled right? I don't know. It's looking weird to me. Guess I didn't have enough coffee this morning. So if the mouse has traveled far enough, then just dodge the character in that direction. So let's see. Shoot direction, point direction, dodge direction. Guess I could set up something called dodge direction, but there's not really a good reason to set that up. It'd be kind of a waste of a variable because I wouldn't be shooting if I'm dodging with the mouse anyway, so I'll just use shoot direction. And what do I want to do? There's two ways I can go about this. Jumping over into here. The player has an X and a Y, which is right in the middle of the sprite. But the player could theoretically click here and then slide their mouse off here. So there's two things I could get out of this. I could either make them dodge in this direction, get my arrows straight, or I could make them dodge in the equivalent of this, which is this direction. So what is the player going to be expecting? If I click on the head, move it that way, I'm guessing that they're going to want this. I'm guessing that's the one they want, because even if they're clicking on the head, I think when they're moving the mouse in a certain direction, they want the player to move in that direction. So their target is here. They want the player to go here. And so for the player to go here, it has to go from XY to mouse XY, not do this stuff. So that keeps things simple, which is just this. So the player's XY, mouse XY, this returns the direction that I need to get there. So that's shoot direction. And PL dodge mouse. So let's see. Check dodge roll. This is the script I use to check whether the player is going to be dodging or not. If PL dodge input is true, which it is, and PL dodge is 1, which it is, come in here. So it'll come in here for even the mouse. And this is where I need to check the direction. So I could actually move a lot of that stuff down here. Maybe I should move all this stuff down there. Let's do that. Keep it in one place. So that if something's going wrong with the dodge, I can come in here and find everything that's going on with the dodge. So that comes down here. And let's see. The distance they can dodge is determined by this PL dodge stuff. Which I'm just realizing now I should probably change a little bit. Dodge up left, true. Yeah, see, like on the controller, I could probably change it to do something like the mouse, because on the controller right now it's doing the 1 of 8 directions dodge. Probably could go back and fix that to be more like the mouse. So let's see, PL dodge XX. Well, I guess the first thing I need to do is say PL dodge input's false, because they've already made their decision on where they're going to slide. I don't want them to be able to slide all over the place. That'd be weird. So before I forget to do that, shoot direction. PL dodge plus plus. Where am I using that? Am I using it down here? No. Check dodge roll. Just trying to figure out exactly where I'm moving the player, because I've got PL dodge commands down here, but there's this happening somewhere. It's not in step. In step, step. Is it inside of here? I should say PL dodge X. See, this is what happens when a project starts to get bigger and bigger. If currently dodging, stop moving. If the mouse is active, if rolling. Okay, this is where I'm doing all the rolling stuff. X plus PL dodge speed. Okay, got it. Yeah, this is more designed for like 8-directional dodging. Yeah, because the reason I'm doing this is because every step the player should be dodging a certain direction, so there's kind of a speed thing going on, which is this dodge speed. So I'm going to have to do a little more calculation to get this right. I can't just feed in a direction and let it do all the work. So PL dodge, alright. Not that one, this one. Okay. So I've got my shoot direction. Now I need to figure out what PL dodge X is equal and what PL dodge Y is supposed to be equal. You know what? It's probably this stuff. It's honestly just that. So I guess I could go back to... Alright, let's break these up again. And I need to actually change it up a little bit. Kind of need to do what I do for like shooting on the controller, which is first check for if X is greater than or less than X, and then within that if it's Y is greater than or less than or not, to get my 8 directions. So let's see, if PL direction is greater than, or if it's less than, then that's fine. Then I also need to do these two things inside of there. Oof, if. So if the Y passes the threshold and the X passes the threshold, well, let's see. I think I'm actually doing something like that here. So let's use these, actually. Actually, let's do it exactly like we're doing it on the controller. There we go. That's probably the best way to do it. Maybe. Yeah, that's the best way to do it. Alright. This is turning into spaghetti really quickly. Let's get this out of the way. And let's bring in the controller stuff. And get back down to here. And undo all the stuff that I just did again. Y, or where'd it go? Oh, I brought it up already. All right. Okay, so that's that. Make sure I have enough brackets again. Yep. Okay, so those are my 4 conditions. If the mouse has traveled far enough, then the mouse direction's that. Bring this back up here. And that'll give me my direction. I guess I could just call it mouse direction. No. Yeah, alright, let's just call it shoot direction. And I'm going to determine player dodge X and Y down there. Well, actually, inside. So I need to bring all of this inside of that if. -1. Now, let's just go with 0 for now. I will call it dodge direction just so when I'm coming back in here like 3 months from now, I'm not wondering why am I using the shoot direction. Okay, so those are all my directions. Feels like I'm overkilling on something though. It's got to be an easier way to do this. Yeah, I think I'm overkilling on something. What I need to do is go a certain distance in a direction. That would actually save me a lot of those ifs and elses, to be honest. Point direction. Now here we go where I try to remember the function. So what I need to do, x units, x distance, or y, z distance, in dodge direction. Z distance in dodge direction for y, for x. So this is kind of what I need to be doing in here. So let's see, where's something where I'm doing that? Where I'm determining where the point is. Point direction, distance. Wow, I think it was even just like last week or 2 weeks ago when I looked this up. Moving around. Distance to point. Move towards point. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Distance to object, distance to point. Yeah, that just gives me the distance. That's not what I want. Motion set. Move towards, X previous, X start, movement collision. Let's see if we can back out a little bit. No. If any of you do remember the function, sing out. I want to pass in a direction. And the distance. And get the y coordinate for that. And the z coordinate for that. And I'm trying to recall where I've used this. Pass direction and distance. Direction, distance. Move x, something like that. Move distance in a direction. Okay, someone solved it, so I'm trying to remember where it is. If distance to object, move target x. Okay, that's fine. Get x, get y. There we go, length dir. Okay. I'll forget that every single time. Length dir. dodge direction, distance actually first, because it takes, if you see down here, GameMaker always tells you what the functions use, so dodge direction comes second. What comes first is distance, and dodge distance is out here. Let's see, where is it? Step. Deep. Dodge speed. Okay, there we go. Dodge speed. That's what I need. So that's my constant for that stuff. So jumping down here. Dodge speed is the distance I want to travel. No, dodge speed times dodge length. Yeah, dodge speed isn't quite what I need. Well, I don't know, maybe it is. Dodge speed in that direction. Is it? Let's try something. Set variable x. Dodge x to that. Yeah, I don't know if I really want to be redoing this every time. Let's just set pl dodge x to this. Dodge x equals. Now what am I doing out here? And place free that. Pl dodge yy. Oh, okay. I see why I'm doing it with this while loop. Need to keep track of something else, which is what happens if there's an obstacle here. Theoretically, he can dodge all the way out here, for example, but I don't want to let him dodge through stuff or into stuff, even worse. So I need to stop that dodge x here, and that's why I'm using that while loop. So it just keeps, what that while loop is doing is it just keeps checking little by little until it hits something, and then it returns this. So I do need that while loop in the mouse stuff too. And Sierra654 says dodge time. Yep, it is definitely time to get into dodge as opposed to out of it. So let's do this. Okay, more stuff to add. See, I knew dodge would be a little trickier than it seemed at first glance. Before I forget these functions, let me just write them in there, because otherwise I will forget them and have to go searching for them again. I don't want to do that. Okay, so that's my dodge direction. While pl dodge y is less than y plus player collision height times the dodge factor. Okay, this is the dodge distance. It takes the height of the player and then multiplies it by a certain factor so that they can dodge, for example, 2 times their player height or 3 times their player height. So that's where I get my distance. And pl dodge y is going to store the result of that. And place free. Okay, well I am using the place free stuff. Yeah, unfortunately that's nice for the keyboard. Not very good for the mouse. So what do I want to do with the mouse? I guess I should do target let's do this. PL target X, dodge target X. Let's, it's a big variable name, but let's just do it for clarity's sake. Okay, so this is going to be, if there's nothing in the way, this is where I'm going to end up. This is my goal. And that's going to be using this. And I'm going to do the same thing for Y, which uses this with a little modification. Instead of dodge speed, which I'm no longer using, I'm going to be using this. So that is for the Y. That's the maximum distance I can travel in the Y direction. Width. Dodge horizontal factor, assuming I named everything properly. Good. So if there's nothing in the way, this is how far I can get. There we go. I can get rid of all that stuff. So, well, PL dodge Y is less than PL dodge target Y. Okay. Don't need this anymore. So this is just one case. There's going to be a whole bunch of cases. Target. So let's see. If PL dodge target X, Y, if Y is less than, it's greater than, less than, let's keep it similar here. Less than. So if the player's current position is less than that, then that means they want to be going up. So only if they want to go up do I do this loop, which makes them go up. Actually, this should be minus minus. Plus plus. Okay. Make sure I'm doing this right. So if there's left movement, okay, I'm doing it a little bit differently out there. PL dodge is greater than Y. Alright, that should be fine. I just want to make sure I get my signs right so I'm not creating infinite loops in here. And before I forget and make a huge mistake there, that should be X. Else if Y is greater than target Y, then I need to loop it the other way. That's minus. And I think I see why I'm doing this stuff up here, like all of these extra checks. Because otherwise, whichever one I use first is going to be the favored direction. So they're going to run into obstacles like doing these weird hooks and stuff. So I do need to avoid that. So I guess I do need to kind of do something like this for the keyboard. Which means nested ifs and elses, unfortunately. Okay, so if they want to dodge right, at least somewhat right, as long as their target X is bigger than where they are now, then come in here and check these three conditions. X plus plus. x plus plus pl dodge x plus plus. Okay, that's part of it. Now let's see what I'm doing with these while loops. Okay, I'm using and inside of the while loop, so I don't have to do loops inside of loops. Alright. Oh, a disgusting amount of parentheses, of course. Alright, let's make sure I get this stuff right. X. So while X, player dodge X is less than the target because they want to be moving right. And that's less than that. And the place is free of collision. Then increment. And I think I have all my parentheses right. Good, okay. And since I never want to redo that while loop again, let me just copy and paste that out. In fact, I might use that one, so. This is the other case where pl dodge y is greater than. Well, alright, let's just get rid of this. So if it's greater than, then I want to keep minusing the y value. And if neither of these are true, then I don't want to be moving in the y direction. I want to be moving just in the x direction. So let's get rid of this. Okay. So that's one. That's one of them. Here's the next one. This is if they want to dodge left. Which means their target is to the left or less than their current X position. So I need to switch out all of these signs, but everything else should be the same. Okay, that's that. And let's see. It's Game Time TV drops by and says, do you know the easiest way to learn GML code? I've been watching tutorials and trying for the past month, but I'm still having trouble learning all of the code and commands and built-in features. Yes, easy way to learn GML code. Well, probably the easiest way is to make sure you have a project in mind. This shows, kind of a different direction than tutorials. Like I always say at the beginning of the show, it's not really a rehearsed tutorial. It's more just kind of showing everything that goes into making a game, including all of like the parts where I get stuck. So I think that might inspire you guys to go out and try and do it yourself. But if you want good tutorials, hopefully in the future I can actually make tutorials. But there's a combination of things. One, I guess if you jump over to YouTube here, I think I've subscribed to them. Let me check my subscriptions here. Where do I have? Who I have? Let's do this. Let's see if I can find them. Slasher X Games, I think, is one. Slasher X Games. Yes, this guy. Slasher X Games. He has some great Game Maker tutorials. Let's see. Popular uploads, playlists. Let's see how he has it organized here. Here we go. Game Maker tutorials, concept prototyping. This guy is very good at explaining things. There's also someone else. Real GM Toots. Let's see if I can remember. Toots? I don't know. Real GM tutorials. If I can find them. Yeah, not a LeBron James videos. Game Maker Shadows, for example. There we go, Real Touch GML. There's another good one.
What is going on, guys? It's Real Touch GML.
Okay, so you know, if following videos is the way you like to do it, these are two good places to check. Slasher X Games and Realty's GML, because what they do is they kind of break down exactly what you need to do. So like, for example, if you want to work on switches in your game, you can just watch this video and kind of see how they're doing it. It's probably the best way to go about it until you start to get used to it. Once you get used to it enough, you can start looking things up on your own. When you do that, you just come over to this site. Let's see if I can go to the top here. Introduction. Okay. Let's see. I need to be able to pull this thing out. Okay. Also, the other thing you could do, I'll actually post the link right here as well. Docs, yoyogames.com, index, HTML. Okay, so right now I'm just mentioning it, but once you get used to it, probably what's going to happen is you're going to end up where I was, where it's like, oh, what's the function I need to do this one thing? Once you get to that point, you can come in here and just start searching around, like, if it catches up to me. I guess it's a little slow right now. There we go. For example, if I want to know more about direction, I can just type in direction and then go right through their documents. You know, gamepads, oh, that sounds good, or potential step, that sounds interesting. But until you get to the point where you're kind of familiar with how to look things up, basically, the best way to do is probably to come over to here. Like, these two guys are great. Real Toots GML. Let me just post these as well. Real Toots GML. Well, all right, you can see it. You can see it. But Real Toots GML and Slasher X Games. Both very good. In the future, hopefully I can do some tutorials as well. But let me catch up. You've seen quite a few tutorials and you're learning slowly, just working on thinking computronically and putting all of the code together in your head. Working on your first game, that's just a simple platformer for my 5-year-old cousin, but found out that you can only have 5 rooms max with the free edition. Oh wow, I didn't know about that limit. Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah, 5 rooms is pretty limiting. Wow. 5 rooms, Game Maker, free version. Yeah, limit rooms 20 sprites. Wow. Okay, that is pretty limiting. Okay, so I guess I should make a note of this. Game Maker Studio for the free edition, you only get 5 rooms, 20 sprites, 10 sounds, 15 objects, 5 backgrounds, 5 timelines, 10 scripts, 5 fonts, 10 paths, 5 included files. That's extremely limiting. It's enough to kind of see maybe whether or not you want to buy Game Maker Studio, but it's probably not enough to make much of a game. I think the big limit's going to be the scripts one. As I can still picture, you know, you could have 1 room game. You could just use the same room and just keep replacing the stuff in it. 20 sprites, you can get, 16 or so enemies, your player, and then maybe a few things that you scatter around the room. Objects, you can kind of do the same thing. Backgrounds, I guess you could keep swapping out the backgrounds, so you could use the same room with multiple backgrounds. So there's kind of ways to stretch it out a little bit, but the free edition, I guess, is pretty limiting. But Game Maker does go on sale an awful lot. Let's go over there. Phoenix Rage, Marketplace, Game Maker. Let's go over to Game Maker. Let's see if they mention it. Yeah, see, that's the free version. Studio. Unlimited resources. Actually, if you grab the new version of Game Maker from their site, it used to be they had 3 versions. They used to have free, standard, professional. They used to have 3 versions, but recently they got rid of this one and made this one free. pencil. They made this one free, and this one doesn't have limitations. It says unlimited resources. So what you might want to do is come over here and just re-download it. Get rid of your old version, your free version. Like it might be an older version when it was like the free version. If you come over here and get the standard version for free, then you'll at least get rid of that limitation. You still have a few limitations, but you know, it's just like testing stuff and maybe some particle stuff. So if you're just learning, I wouldn't worry about that stuff. So my advice is first to get rid of the free version and come over here and get the standard version for free. The other thing is it's on sale right now, for example, but you know, if you're interested, you know, you don't have to pay the full $100 for it. It goes on sale all the time for about half price. Right now it's $50, for example, but that standard version I think has everything you'll need. So just re-download it. That's a good start. And yes, your question about thinking computronically. Yeah, thinking like a computer is probably the biggest hurdle to kind of getting into programming or making things in general. Because obviously, to do all this stuff, I'm kind of thinking like a computer. I'm thinking, you know, all right, there's this X number, and I want to get to this PL dodge X number, so I have to add here, loop through this however many times. That's probably the harder thing to kind of wrap your head around. It's easy when you see someone doing it, but when you actually start to do it, you know, just kind of wrapping your head into that logical world of, you know, numbers, booleans, and things like that, it does take a little bit of a hop, skip, and a jump. But for that reason, I guess following tutorials and kind of doing what they're doing is one start. In terms of GML code itself, yeah, I guess making a game and just going step by step is about the only way you can do it until you start to get used to it. Probably the biggest things you want to get used to are variables, what that means, what a variable means. Let's list that up. So probably, you know, what are variables? I mean, it sounds like a stupid question, but it's actually something worth wrapping your head around, because there's different things. There's like integers, which are numbers, like that. There's like floats, which are numbers like that. There's strings, like hello world. There are booleans, which only hold like true or false. And it's kind of an important starting step to get your head around that, because you know, if you start getting those things mixed up, it'll cause problems. The other reason to get your head around it is the next thing is probably, what is logic? I mean, that sounds like a stupid question too, but it's kind of important to think about game logic, because that's what I'm doing right now with the dodge stuff. So like if x is less than y, what this means is, you know, thinking computronically, like you said, when the computer comes through here, it takes these, calculates it. If x is less than y, okay, this is true. So what happens is this becomes this. If I can type right, this gets translated into this, and whatever's in here gets evaluated. So what happens is, that's the simple way to do it, but like what I'm doing down there is I'm chaining things together. So if x is less than y and z is less than w, for example, then do this stuff. So what the computer does is it comes through here, goes from left to right, thinks x is less than y, true. Yes, okay, that's true. Z is less than w. Yes, no, that's false. Then it comes back through again, says if true and false, which is false, then this. So wrapping your head around kind of the way a computer goes through stuff and calculates stuff is also kind of important, because it's an easy place to make mistakes. So what is logic is probably another good place to start. And once you get through logic, what are branches or loops is probably the next best place to go. Think about, the easiest one is if, because it's just like the English language, you know. If I'm going to the store, then I'm going to pick up yogurt. So that's if, then. You can also say if I'm going to the store, I'll pick up yogurt. Otherwise, you know, else, if I'm going to the convenience store, I'll pick up milk. You know, it's kind of like if that, else. The other things to kind of get around are loops. While is still kind of an English language loop, so that's an easy one. So while I'm at the store, I'm going to keep throwing yogurt into my cart. So that's the while loop. There's also the for loop. So I'm going to go to the convenience store 10 times, and every time I go there, I'm going to pick up yogurt. So that's kind of the for loop thing. So once you get your head around variables, logic, branches, and loops, good place to start. Next thing is probably functions, thinking about functions. And making your own functions. It's kind of weird in GameMaker compared to programming languages because it's not quite a function, it's just a script. Kind of works like a function, but like if you come over here, well, here's a script, for example, I'm working on now. Need to remember where I am so I can get back to it. But all of these scripts that are in here, you know, like for example, my fire shot direction script that I was using earlier. The way GameMaker does it is all of your kind of functions are over here in scripts, and they take arguments. So like this argument 0, for example. So what this means is, I guess, see fire shot direction. So I can call it and say fire in a direction, and it'll do all of this stuff. But, you know, these are for functions that you make, but obviously GameMaker comes with a lot of functions, like this length dir x. That's a function as well. Distance direction. And this is where that knowledge of variables helps, because you know that length dir x is returning you a coordinate, so you need to use an integer. Some integer x is equal to that. I think once you get those 4 things down, you should be pretty good to go. Then I think once you get a really firm grasp of these 4 things, you can start watching tutorials and it'll start slowly, you know, kind of popping into your head. But I think these are the 4 kind of things when it comes to thinking about, you know, things. If you want to think about things like a computer thinks about things, these are the 4 things you kind of need as a base. There's one more thing, especially for GameMaker, that you should probably get your head around, and that's what are objects? Like for example, over here I have all these things like the player object, which is what I'm fixing today. So like there's this player object, and it stores a bunch of things, like, you know, whether the player is dodging or not, you know, whether the player is shooting or not. You know, all of these variables are kind of tucked into this object. And thinking about objects, everything that's inside of an object stays inside of that object, so other objects can't, you know, start using this stuff. So that brings us to the last thing that you really have to kind of wrap your head around if you want to think like a computer, and that's what is scope. This is going to be a hard one to explain. Scope just means how far out you can see a variable. Like sometimes you'll see me using these things called globals. That just means anyone, anywhere can see this thing. Player can see it, the bullet can see it, the ghost can see it, everyone can see this. So as soon as I declare this, everyone can see it. But if inside of player I have a variable called player shoot and I set it to true, the only thing that can see it is player. If I try to see player shoot from ghost, it won't work. GameMaker does give you a way around that because you can access another object and say, for example, player pl shoot. So there are ways around it, but you just have to keep track of that, where that variable is and who can see it and who can't. The last thing is if you declare a variable inside of a script. I don't know if I do it here. Oh, okay, I do it here. For example, if I declare this variable inside of the script, this is the very first time this variable exists. It's inside of the script. When the script ends, that variable ends. So if I try to check clear check from outside of here, not going to work. So you know, that's what you kind of have to get your head around. These, I think, once you get your head around all of these, you will be fine with GameMaker language, because it's pretty easy to use, and there's tons of tutorials like those two sites. So, and you said, so no, I need to pay $100. No, I hope I went over that correctly, but just pick up the latest free version, and that should give you everything you need to go. And it's Game Time TV also says, I'd say I'm on the verge of basic to intermediate understanding of GameMaker and GML. So I think you're good. As long as you've got these things down, everything else is just kind of building on top of that. Start simple. Start with just a one-room game. Get an object in there. Get things shooting at it. You know, just step by step. Watch tutorials and keep going. As you go, you'll start to kind of pick it up. And you know, even if you forget how to say things like, you know, I forgot the whole length dir function, you remember that it's out there. You just have to find it. I should probably keep this in case I do need to explain this again. GML stuff. But if you have any specific questions on like particular concepts that are kind of evading your grasp or anything, feel free to send them to me. You can also just email me, eric@bluetengu.com, but I'll mention that at the end of the show too. But let's jump back into this. Don't want to keep you guys waiting too long, but I did kind of want to go over that because it might help some of the rest of you out there who are just getting started. So I'm in check dodge roll, and I'm checking the dodge roll in here. So I'm creating all these extra conditions. So if the player is right of where they want to be, then I want them to move left. So x-axis is minus, minus, minus. And these last two conditions should be fine as are. Maybe. Make sure I have enough parentheses. Okay. I hope I stopped in a good place. I hope I wasn't thinking about something else. If they want to dodge right, come in here. If they also want to dodge, they also want to dodge up. If they also want to dodge down. If they just want to dodge right. Just so that later I can remember this. This is also actually another good thing to tell you for scripting. If you want to learn GML script, comment everything. It does help. If anything, you know, it's faster to read this than this. And as it gets more complicated, you kind of forget what these things do. And that's an easy place to make mistakes. And this needs to be an else. And an else, okay. Almost forgot that. If they just want to dodge up, and if they just want to dodge down. Let's see, is that all I need to do? Let's see what happens. Get back to the game and see what happens. And Noob 247365 drops by and says, awesome game maker, I love this program. Good timing. I love the airs this program gives me. Yes, Game Maker is awesome. It makes things very simple. So I'm just forgetting parentheses. I always forget parentheses. 173 is where I'm forgetting my parentheses. Sorry guys, I do that every time, no matter how careful I try to be. Alright, where am I forgetting my parentheses? That's fine, that's fine. It's fine, fine. That's fine. 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 Am I forgetting it somewhere else? I guess I should have paid a little more attention to that message. But this is the stuff I added, so I figured this was the stuff that would be fishy. Oh, well, that actually looks all fine. Yeah, that's okay. That is not okay. Okay, well, there we go. But that's not quite what I want to do. Let's add an extra one out here. So I'm definitely missing some parentheses in here. This is that thing I kept fiddling with the whole time, so... obviously I'm going to make mistakes on this. Alright, that should do it. And by the way, I should mention to you guys who've dropped by the show since the beginning, if you are working on your own stuff, feel free to post a link in the Twitch feed. I don't block links or anything, and I like to see what you guys are working on. So, been a while since getting back into the game. Let's see, make sure everything still works. Shooting still works. Let me turn off the enemy shooting, and let's make myself invincible, so I don't have to worry about it. I can still dodge in place, that's fine. I can slide. Wow. Okay, there's a couple of problems going on. So I can slide. Let me jump out and jump back in so I can see what's going on here. I can slide. It just always goes up and to the left. Alright, well that's a problem. Why would it do that? It's also not letting me move after that slide, which is no good. Player dodge inputs false. Okay, dodge move. So if they're able to dodge, and they are dodging with the mouse, set the direction to 0 by default, which I guess isn't too important to do. Well, yeah, let's do it in here. I don't know, this is kind of concerning to do this stuff, but alright. Dodge direction. Go from the player's XY to wherever the mouse X and Y is. If this is the case, should be fine. If they want to dodge right, so if X is less than dodge target, dodge direction. While that's true, that's that. It should be okay. Let me print out a couple of debug messages so I can make sure everything's cool here. String pl dodge x. So that's what I'm kind of interested in. String pl dodge y. Also interested in that. Plus y. What's that? And pl dodge inputs should be set to false. Yeah, because they've picked a direction, so setting that to false is fine. What else would I want to show? I guess I'd also want to kind of show this direction. Direction. that. And I need to make that a string. Okay. Well, that'll give me some information about what's going wrong. Down here in the lower corner. Let me crank down the resolution a little bit there, just so you guys can see things that are going on. Moved him into the corner, which is no good. Let me do it from here. Okay, let's see what messages it's giving me. The direction is fine. The angle is fine. It's just always picking the same dodge X and dodge Y, which means there's something fishy in my logic. Dodge X, dodge Y. Yeah, there's something fishy in my logic. What would be fishy about my logic? This is probably a good time to actually take a break so that I can kind of freshen my head up and think about this. So I think I will actually take my break here. Thank you for waiting while I took that break. For those of you who didn't catch the intro, this is Blue Tengu's live game development show where we show everything that goes into making a game from concept to completion. If you've ever wanted to make a game with help, this will help lower the barrier to entry, maybe give you the nudge you needed to try it yourself. The guys watching me floundering about probably gives you the inspiration to say, hey, I can do this too. For all the information about where you can find us, it's in the Twitch info down below, or in our YouTube profile for those of you catching us later on YouTube. But just in case, we're at www.bluetengu.com. Tengu on Twitter, definitely follow, love it. Facebook.com Blue Tengu Studio, YouTube.com Blue Tengu Studio if you want to catch past episodes, or Twitch TV Blue Tengu if you want to jump over to the live stream we're doing. The game we're making is Project Spaghetti, which is a top-down 2D cowboy shooter where the bullets fired bounce around the screen with a pinball mechanic. And before the break, I was having a little trouble with the dodge mechanic. I think, that break kind of cleared my mind up. I think I know what's going wrong. Let's jump right into it. I use Game Maker Studio. Just had a chat with someone a few minutes ago about the Game Maker thing. It used to be there was a free version, a standard version, a pro version. Now there's just the standard version for free. So it gets rid of a lot of those limitations. So if you kind of remember Game Maker being free but very limited, you might want to try it again. It's good for 2D games, but right now I'm working on the dodge mechanic, and I think my problem is I do want to keep this variable dodge direction out here, actually. That's fine. But I think what I need to do is make sure that if the mouse doesn't pass this threshold, then I don't want it to do anything. I think that might be part of the problem. Might be. I don't know. We'll see. Because let's see, if rolling. So I need to set peel roll to true, I guess, is one thing. Yeah, I think that's one of the things I need to do. Set peel roll to true is probably one thing. Oh, but it's already setting it. Okay, good. Actually, that's a good thing, because it means I know exactly where my problem is. My problem is, when I do click the mouse to dodge, it changes the dodge target down here, but it only does that if the mouse passes a certain threshold. The problem is the roll is set to true no matter what, so it tries to move in this direction. It starts to cause problems. So what I should also do is set peel dodge. Let's see, what is it? Peel dodge x and y. Dodge y equals 0. That should be part of a solution. part of it anyway. What else should I do? I guess I could even go a step further and say peel dodge roll is equal to false. Or is it peel roll or peel dodge roll? Let me make sure I get it straight. PL roll, not dodge roll. Okay, so PL roll is equal to false. That's probably another good way to go about it, making sure that it doesn't roll unless there's a reason to roll. And set it to true in here. So that should cover all my bases. Let's see what happens. Let's see if it helps. Hopefully it does. Nope. Still does the same thing. Very weird. Minus. It must be something I'm doing with the mouse check because it's only giving me a value. Let's close that down. Walk you through the messages that it's sending me. It's only giving me an X and a Y value if I'm moving in the upper left. Like here, I was moving somewhere else, but it just returned 0. So yeah, my logic check is failing somewhere. Let's see if I can figure it out for you guys. Check dodge roll. Alright, where is my logic failing? If mouse X is greater than PL dodge mouse X. So if mouse X is greater than the original plus that threshold, or it's less than the original minus that threshold, or Y is greater than that, less than that. That looks okay. Yeah, because it is coming in here properly because it is giving me a dodge direction. It's just not getting me the X and Y I need from that direction. So let's see, what should I do? X and Y is the player. So it's giving me the correct direction. So up through here is fine. It might be this stuff. Let me add a debug message in here too. Target X plus string PL dodge target X plus comma space Y plus string PL dodge target Y. This extra debug message may give me the information I need. X is less than player target dodge. Yeah, this is kind of fishy. Something fishy is going on around there. So let's see what the debug messages give me. Okay, let's check our debug messages. So my target X is minus or positive. Okay. I think I see what the problem might be. I hope, because if that is the problem, I think I can solve it. Yes, that is the problem. Okay. Let's see how I can fix this. The problem is this target X, the length dir. Obviously, it gives me the length I should be moving in the X or the Y direction. The problem is I'm being stupid and I'm using that to do this check against the absolute coordinates. So what's going on is this. If I try to move the player any direction but the upper left, I need to widen this out so I can get all my tools here. If I try to move the player in any direction but the upper left, what happens is it's comparing these things. This length, like for example minus 22, and y minus, 15 or whatever it is. It's comparing that to this, which is, for example, 150 if he's in the middle of the screen, 200 or something. It's comparing this, which is not what I should be doing, because this is, for example, x is 22, y is 15. Sorry about my writing, by the way. Doing my best with my mouse. It's comparing these numbers and these numbers, which is not what I want to be doing. What I do want to be doing is comparing, let's see, x plus this. I want to dodge right. No, because that'll give me... no, that might actually be what I need. Okay. I was worried about an infinite loop, but it only comes in here once. I hope. Okay. So this will kind of shift that direction out based on where the player is. So what it'll do, I won't bring up the paintbrush again, but what it'll do is it'll shift those coordinates so that I'm comparing apples to apples instead of apples and oranges. That was my problem. So I just have to do this in every spot. The player's Y position plus their target. Because I need to use target in two ways. I don't want to use it. See, I don't want to change it in the while loops, because the while loops, it's correct. It's just in these ifs that I need to kind of compensate. X plus that, y plus that. So wherever I have an if, I have to be careful to do this. That's why it's helpful to always show as much information as possible with debug messages if you're trying to solve a problem. Yeah, it should always be plus, because if this is minus, it'll subtract anyway. So make sure I've always got pluses in there. Do I have the right parentheses? I'm starting to get paranoid about parentheses here. Yep, looks like I'm always using plus. Okay, let's see if this works. I hope it does. No! What are you doing? Come on, work. Alright, that's still not working. Let's check our debug messages. 1414, yeah, it's giving me the right dodge X and Y. Because target X is to the right of the player, Y is down to the player. So it's giving me the right dodge X and Y now. So I am moving a step in the right direction. But it's just not doing that for some reason. Down to the bottom. Peel dodge Y. Oh, whoops. I need to stop doing that now. Peel dodge X. Peel dodge X is equal to that. Okay, that might help me. Because I think I was resetting the things I shouldn't be resetting. Let's hope that works. I love these awkward debugging moments. Yes, it's giving me the right target. I think it's giving me the right dodge X and Y. I need to get the player's current position too. Otherwise this information is not being too helpful to me. Step. So I need to also show player position X and Y. String Y. Boom. Okay, that'll give me my player positions. What else could I be doing wrong here? Dodge direction 0 by default. And actually, I shouldn't be showing this outside. I should be showing it in here. Okay, well this should give me a little more information to work with. And let's see. New 247365. Yes, the length dir mistakes. Can't you just check the sign of the target? That's easier than y greater than y plus. Yeah, I guess I could just check the sign of the target now, because it is because it is not a coordinate anymore. It is actually minus and plus. It's actually a good idea. I should probably change the logic that way. Let me just check where the player is in relation to this dodge stuff. Okay, so that's if I go down to the right. Because this will help me debug things, because I don't think it's just a sign problem. There is another problem going on. Yeah. Okay, so the player direction and the final dodge direction ends up being the same, which is not what I want, even though it should be moving right this much. So what should be happening is the dodge X should be about 214, the Y should be about 170 something, 80 something, but that's not happening. So that's one problem. But yes, Noob, thank you for the sign idea, because that's a lot simpler than what I'm doing now. Because now that I am using length dir, I don't need to do this whole like greater than plus less than stuff. So let's do that first. If they want to dodge right, if this is greater than 0, they want to dodge right. Targets Y. If they want to dodge up in GameMaker, that means minus, so less than 0. Player, if they want to dodge down, that means that's greater than 0. If they want to dodge left, that means that's less than 0. Up, less than 0. Certainly saves me a lot of calculation. Greater than 0, and then down here at the very end here. Less than 0 for up, because PL dodge target's going to be minus something. And down it's going to be positive. Okie dokie. So that saves a lot of complication there. Thank you for the tip. And let's see, player dodge X, while it's less than the target. Let me see something. I might be making a similar mistake out here too. It depends on how I'm calculating this stuff. So PL dodge X is equal to PL dodge X plus dodge speed. This is an absolute coordinate too. So need to fix that in here. That should be my last problem, I hope. So PL dodge X plus plus. So let's see, PL dodge X by default is where the player is now as their starting point. That makes sense. So this is an absolute coordinate. Again, I'm comparing it to this kind of coordinate. So I need to add this stuff in. might just be simpler to create a different variable so I don't have to do all this addition in here. Keep it simple. PL destination y equals y plus PL dodge target. So this will give me my absolute coordinates on, you know, wherever he is in the room, where I want him to be in the room, basically. And then I can get rid of all this stuff. PL destination x, PL destination y. Okay, I already have that declared up there. Just want to make sure I do my declarations right here. So all I need to do is replace the rest of these with just destinations in the while loops. Only the while loops, not the if stuff, as otherwise I'll screw things up. So overwrite dodge target with destination, and I should be good to go. All those while loop dodge targets. Sing out if I do accidentally overwrite one of the if ones, because that would screw me up royally, especially if it's only in one direction. Whoa. Replaced a little bit too much there. Okay, I should probably double check these things. So all of my while loops should now be PL destination X or Y. Y, Y, X, X and Y, Y, X, 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 Y. Okay, well, hopefully that does it. Fingers crossed. Let me just catch up to the chat here because you guys are having fun without me. Yeah, so Noob, thank you for that suggestion. That saved me a lot of logic. Sears654 says, sucks Noob's intelligence about coding and puts it in his head, so much information. Yes, Noob does have a lot of information. You're naming, you should be the anti-Noob, because he definitely helped me out here. Let's see if we can get this dodge working. Come on. Come on. Well, at least he's not going in one weird direction. That's one positive, I suppose. So it's a different problem now, thankfully. That's a good thing. So what's probably happening is that if and else is just always becoming true now. So I do need to fix that. I'm probably undoing something that I shouldn't be undoing in the logic. At least that should be theoretically easier to solve than the problem so far. So PL dodge X. Yeah, okay, there's the problem. No, that's not the problem. I need a new debug message in here. Debug message. Destination X plus string. Yeah, I need to make sure these destinations are okay. Let me just put pluses in here so I can remember what these coordinates mean. So this final destination, let's put player position up there too. Okay, this should give me all the information I need to figure out what's going wrong. Yep, up left, down right. Okay, so that was 2 sets of points. Up left was minus minus, that's correct. The player position is 180, 140. The final destination is indeed up and to the left of that original coordinate. So that's cool. The direction, the dodge X. That is not cool. Probably. That is probably not cool. Let me check. Flying down. So what it's saying is PL dodge X. What's going on is this PL dodge X is ending up being the original X, which is why the player's not moving, which means my signs are probably mixed up in here. So if they want to dodge right, like last time they wanted to dodge up and to the left. So for example, target X was minus, which means it would come in here. Y is minus, so it would come in here, and then it would start into this loop. PL dodge X, which is the player's original position, which is 180, for example. While 180 is greater than the destination, which is 150, so that's true, and Y is less than the destination, so the original position is 140, but the destination is 110, so that's never going to go off. So I'm getting my signs mixed up, aren't I? Yes, I am. I'm getting my signs mixed up somewhere here. If they want to dodge down, this should be positive. So this is right. So I might be switching these signs. PL dodge target. Yes, if it's negative, that means they want to go up. And PL dodge Y, which at the moment is just the player's current position, which is 140. Okay. Yes, okay, I am getting this mixed up. Yes, okay, I've got my signs mixed up on the Y stuff. That could just be my only problem. One hopes. So if 1 is less than 0. If it's less than, then I'm switching this to greater than. We'll see if that's the problem. Maybe X is screwed up as well, I'm not sure. Let's try Y first. Okay, I think I have my X's and my X's screwed up here, but I think it's moving at least in the Y direction properly. Let me try that one more time just to check the Y direction. So I think I need to do the same thing with the X's. Get the signs straight in my head. If I dodge up, he always goes down. If I dodge down, he always goes up. So, well, that's part of the problem. Okay. So if they just want to dodge up, if their target is less than, so if it's a minus, that means they want to go up. So while their current position is greater than the destination position, then plus. Okay, so I need to switch these now, because I switched the signs, so I need to switch all of these. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom. And I probably need to switch the X's as well. No, the X's might be okay. Let me just try it. It was probably just the Y logic in my head was getting screwed up. We'll see. Come on, all directions, all directions. Down. Yes, okay. Kind of. kind of working. It's a little sensitive. I think it's just the way I've got that mouse radius working. Like when I originally talked about this, I warned about this, said, you know, wherever the mouse is originally, when the player, you know, tries to slide up to the upper right, the mouse is fidgety, so what happens is something more akin to this, basically. The mouse just kind of jiggles as it goes up to the right, so you probably only want to keep track of, you know, this value here. If the mouse passes here, then finally, you know, decide, all right, the player wants to go up and to the right. So probably what the problem is just my radius is too small, so it's catching a little of that mouse jiggle. It's not dodging him in the right position. So I just need to fix that. But the dodge is working. I think I need to fix the distances as well. It's probably not calculating the distances right, because if I go straight up, for example, let's see. If I go up and to the left, it's not much of a dodge, but if I do it on the keyboard, you know, obviously it's a pretty considerable dodge. So that direction is kind of throwing it off. It's making it so that he's not getting his full dodge range. The reason it's doing that is it's actually calculating the distance more accurately than it is with the keyboard, because the keyboard, you know, jumps him into one of 8 positions. Boom, if he starts here, let's keep it quick. The keyboard dodge currently jumps him into one of 8 positions based on which keys are being held down. So obviously, this distance is a lot further than this distance. With the mouse, it's calculating things a little more precisely, so it ends up with these like short dodges and stuff like that. Plus, probably the pluses and minuses aren't enough for what I need. So I do need to work on that, but I think I'm in a good spot with the dodge. The shooting is working, so I guess I should just show you guys the game before I, you know, log off and let me catch up to the chat. Noob says, when I code with GM, I usually just use code blocks. When you're using drag and dropping code blocks, it makes my brain hurt. Yeah, I'm sorry. I do just kind of scroll back and forth. I may have to think about being more efficient with code blocks. Otherwise, you know, the way I scroll through scripts, it probably makes some people barf. Sorry about that. But let's show you the actual game. I'll do it on the keyboard just to show you the game itself. Because you did ask about it, or one of you guys asked about it. So basically, you run around the screen, you try to get these bullets kind of bouncing off the sides, because as they bounce, they start to pick up speed, and when they hit an enemy, they're worth more points if they're going faster. The same thing applies to you. Obviously, if they're faster, they're harder to dodge. So it's kind of a you know, risk-reward system. And there are other levels with different rules. There's not just like cowboy shooting at you. There's ghosts. You know, if you try to fire through them, they just get transparency. You have to ring this bell. They all start attacking you, but you can finally hit them. There's also this level, which involves, you know, scorpions that you can't hit from the front. So you have to be a little smarter about how to use, you know, the bullets and getting them in place and stuff like that, so you can kill them. There's also the UFO level, where it's mostly just shielded enemies, but if you can get them to blast themselves with a laser, they lose their shield for long enough for you to shoot them. There's also the Christmas level. The more the snowmen get shot, the faster they get. If they still have their head, they can chase you. If they lose their head, if I can get one of these headshots, boom, headshot. They lose their head, they get faster, but they no longer chase you. So there's a little strategy involved there. There's also a giant boss enemy as well, which still needs a little work, but that's basically the game in a nutshell. There's going to be more things kind of coming into it, but just so you could see it, because I'm just working on a small part of it, which is the dodge right now with the mouse. So I've already added keyboard controller support. It's just the mouse support that needs to finish off. And Noob says the game seems it's a pretty well-made game. It's so cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's nice because I kind of want people to play it and stuff, but I don't want to give it to anybody before it's working and stuff like that. But I do appreciate that. It helps my motivation. But I think I'm going to call it a day there, because I have been going on way past 2 hours, and you guys have been very patient with me. Thank you, Noob and Cirrus and the other guys who joined the chat. it definitely kept things lively. For the guy who was asking about GML script, if you do have specific questions about GML script, feel free to send them my way. I'll answer what I can if I can help, get you on track with that stuff. So I'll jump off the desktop, and I do this every week, so I guess I should get my times here. Get my times straight for you guys. Thank you for watching this game development show. You can catch past episodes and this one when it goes up over at youtube.com, Blue Tengu Studio, all one word. I think the link's down there. If you're watching this later on YouTube, come drop by the live show we do every week on Twitch TV Blue Tengu. The times are Fridays 3 to 5 Pacific, 4 to 6 Mountain, 5 to 7 Central, 6 to 8 Eastern. If you're in the UK, it's 11 p.m. Friday night until 1 a.m. Saturday morning. If you're here in Japan with me, it's 8 to 10 Saturday morning. And if you're in Australia, it starts anywhere from 8 to 10, depending on where you live. And if you're in New Zealand, it starts 11 a.m. Saturdays. Let's see, what else should I say? Yes, we always announce what we're doing through Twitter, so following Tengu on Twitter is probably the easiest way to figure out what we're doing and when we're doing it. This game development show is always just, regular, so if you know the schedule, you don't need to know announcements or anything like that. But, it's an easy way to keep track. Obviously, you can always follow us on Twitch or YouTube, and we do appreciate that. I appreciate it a lot, because it keeps my motivation going when I know you guys are actually interested in this stuff. Especially today with a pretty lively chat. I loved it. Probably did my going off on a tangent did make the episode run longer, I suppose, but I hope that information was useful for you guys. And of course, you can always see what we're up to anytime over at justbluetengu.com, the site. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Cirrus, Noob, and the rest of you guys watching, hope you enjoyed the show. Send me an email at eric@bluetengu.com if you have any questions or suggestions or anything you want to say. Thank you guys. I will see you next time.